Welcome to the Get Real with King Arthur show. Thanks for listening. Now, I'm always grateful for people who give us feedback. Miriam thought it'd be good to talk about some of the miracles recorded in the New Testament that Jesus performed, but she hadn't seen the Thanksgiving program in which we talked about the healing of the 10 lepers. And Wayne talked about working with the brain dead. My goodness. Well, anyway, so give us feedback. Today we have a guest. I'm very honored to have Ron Lauderbach, one of my old students, one of his professors. And he has so much to say and has had such an interesting life, but we'll just have to call him back sometimes because we can't cover everything this morning. But let me just say about his life that he's had 2 careers. First, a very successful business career, and then decided he was going to go into teaching and had a good teaching career, and now he's into writing poetry. In fact, 60 of his poems have appeared in various journals and magazines. And so I'm asking him today to read 2 poems that he's written, and I've asked him to comment on why he's writing poetry. But first, Ron, I'll call him Ron, read us the poem on the young daughter's questions of you.
All right, thank you, Art, and it's a pleasure to be on your show. I'm honored. I have known you for many years, and I honor our friendship. So I'm going to read the first poem from my book, Snapshots, and this is a poem which explains itself, really. So I'll just go ahead and read it. It's called The Price of Children. How much do kids cost? Asks my 4-year-old daughter. I answer her as if she's an adult and talk about the cost of food, shelter, and clothing. I go on to explain the importance of good health for a better life and less medical expense. I mention family outings and entertainment, then move on to education. I think about, but don't tell, the emotional costs of loss of sleep, worrying and dreaming about the future, and the priceless feeling of relief when she recovered from a nearly fatal accident last year. Not that, Daddy, she says. You paid when we picked up Tyler from the hospital. How much did he cost?
Okay, I insist the poems be read twice. Read it again, please.
Otra vez. The Price of Children. How much do kids cost? Asks my 4-year-old daughter. I answer her as if she is an adult and talk about the cost of food, shelter, and clothing. I go on to explain the importance of good health for a better life and less medical expense. I mention family outings and entertainment, then move on to education. I think about, but don't tell, the emotional costs of loss of sleep, worrying, and dreaming about the future, and the priceless feeling of relief when she recovered from a nearly fatal accident last year. Not that, Daddy, she says. You paid when we picked up Tyler from the hospital. How much did he cost?
Would you say, Ron, that a lot of your poems are written sort of occasional, and so when something arises like that question? Always, or just sometimes do you write when the occasion arrives?
Almost always. My poems are 100% narrative, and mostly do come from a true personal experience. I will sometimes change the facts around to make the poem more interesting, but they're based on a real happening.
And before I ask some other questions, would you read the second poem?
I'd be happy to. Which one would you like me to read? Or would you like me to pick it? You had... I can select one, or I can read one that you remember.
Which one?
The one on language.
Oh, language. Okay.
Yeah.
That one's not in the book. That's a newer poem.
You have that handy?
I have it right here.
Oh, good.
And the name of the poem is Hanging Out with Words. And I will just explain this. I was an English teacher after I was a businessman. Hanging out with words. Tipsy adjectives flirt with coy nouns, and eyeball peers as they sashay in from the LY shop, like adverbial celebrities. Sometimes a complete sentence shows up dressed in italics, each word strutting like they're the creme de la creme. Verbs banter at one end of the bar, while a covey of superlatives gathers noisily at the other, bragging about their first cru Bordeaux wines. I see a befuddled gerund, unable to decide whether to sit with the nouns or verbs. He sits between them, provocatively displaying his brand new ing. An exclamation point staggers in, but leaves for lack of excitement. There is a sign behind the bar and another one at the exit that reads, "Not responsible for lost affixes."
One reason, before you read it again, that I like so much is I tell poets, would-be poets, that you've got to play with language. That poetry is not just a collection of words or sentences, it's playing with languages, and this poem captures that so well. So please read it again, Ron.
Okay, thank you. Hanging out with words. Tipsy adjectives flirt with coy nouns and eyeball peers as they sashay in fresh from the LY shop like adverbial celebrities. Sometimes a complete sentence shows up dressed in italics, each word strutting like they're the creme de la creme. Verbs banter at one end of the bar, while a covey of superlatives gathers noisily at the other, bragging about their first cru Bordeaux wines. I see a befuddled gerund, unable to decide whether to sit with the nouns or verbs. He sits between them, provocatively displaying his brand new ing. An exclamation point staggers in, but leaves for lack of excitement. There is a sign behind the bar and another one at the exit that reads, "Not responsible for lost affixes."
I like the fact that unless you have that spirit of playing with language when you write poetry, you missed it. Now, I have one important question to ask in our very limited time, and I promise I'll try to get Ron back again, but why do you write poems? I mean, yeah, I'm sure you weren't writing poems to earn money. Very few people do.
Well,
But believe me, poems take quite a while and energy to write. Why are you doing that? You could be, I don't know, working on your golf or whatever you work on.
Yeah, I worked on golf for a while and that didn't work. So, and I've only been writing serious poetry for like 8 years, and I started when I was 70. And you might say I'm not in it for the money, but you know, to date I've earned about $120. So what's that, $12 a year? Not bad. But seriously, the reason I write poetry is to entertain, preserve memories. I like to find different meanings for the same word and try to use it in the same poem. I like to use humor, probably too much, but that's my style. And but mostly, I write poetry to have fun, Art, and I have fun writing poetry.
Okay, great motivation for writing poetry. Well, you can see that this man, this poet has got a lot to say, but we have such limited time. But I promise I will try to get him back, and so we can continue our dialogue. And so thanks so much, Ron, for reading your poetry and talking about it. Could you tell us how the audience could access your book? Now, you have another book coming out, but it's not coming out for a month. But the book that's already published, would you give the title and how they may buy that book?
Yes. The title of the book is Snapshots. It's available on Amazon. However, if you will contact me through Dr. Siemens, I'll get you a book for a lot. It's $17 on Amazon, which is way too much for this little book. I've had it reprinted, and I can sell it to you for $12. So if you'll contact me, I'll do that. And also, the second book that Art was just talking about is a book that I've done in collaboration with my wife, who is an oil painter. And she did a series of several paintings that reflect on our life in Provence, where we had a summer house for 17 years.
Yeah.
I wrote poems to go with her poetry, and then, with her artwork. And we also incorporated recipes that we used while we were there, and then some photographs of the countryside and places we visited. So that's more of a coffee table book than it is a poetry book. We're fortunate that Dr. Hadley Wood of Point Loma Nazarene translated all my poetry into French. So that's a big caveat for the book too.
Okay, I promise when that book comes out as published, I'll have you back and we'll look at the book a little bit. Thanks so much, Ron, for coming and talking with us. And I hope we can read some more of your poetry. I'm so eager to do it. Thanks again.
And I look forward to coming back. Thank you.